Well, hello, you guys. Sorry to keep you waiting. You know, you can't rush beauty, and we're all trying to get as beautiful as we possibly can. On the 3rd of July, tomorrow is our country's birthday. 224 years old. I look as good at that age as our. Well, I don't know if I should say that. I'm sorry. But anyway, we're going to celebrate our birthday tomorrow. And in honor of that, we have a special show. We have a Brit with us, you know, who isn't exactly founded in the same philosophy and upbringing that we are, but we'll get to that in a minute. But meanwhile, I just want to let you guys know that our show today is sponsored by Bay Photo. These guys will help you make any kind of print that you want, whether it's a print on the wall that's framed or in a book or even in a coffee cup if you want. Get it off your computer, put it somewhere physically, and you're going to get a 25% discount as a new customer. But I also saw that they have a 15% off on everything this weekend, so take advantage of that. Okay, did I say who I am? I think you guys know who I am. So, but I'll back it up here just so we've got it. I am Marc Silber. I'm a photographer and author here in Carmel, California, and I'm so happy to have you guys with us. Our guest today, we've got two guests with us today. The one and only Robert Holmes, Bob Holmes, who you know and love, and you've seen him a lot of times, former National Geographic photographer and 5-time Travel Award Photographer of the Year. And we're also joining his partner, Andrea Johnson. Here she is. She is a director specializing in wine, agriculture, and travel. We love these guys. And welcome to both of you guys. Welcome back to the show. Bob, you're going to have to scoot a little closer so we can see you. You're kind of cut off in the frame. Scoot over, there we go. Okay. How are you guys doing? You're up in Portland again, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we are.
All righty. Well,
From foggy Portland.
foggy Portland. It's foggy Carmel. It's probably foggy along the coast everywhere. But we're going to talk about weather today, right?
Yep.
That's going to be.
That's one of the
That's a fun thing.
I'm sure we'll digress as usual.
Yeah, we're all perfectly organized. We do, but just so you guys know, we do hours and hours of rehearsing behind the scenes here. We've been up since dawn, actually. Bob woke me up because he wanted to make sure everything was set up. So he woke me up about 6 a.m. and we started rehearsing. So if it looks other than that, I couldn't possibly explain it. But who wants to go first? Andrea, are you going to go first with your images?
Yeah, we'll switch back and forth.
Okay.
So some of those technical errors, getting the screen share going.
Yeah,
hopefully
we
we're
had some fun this morning. So what we're going to do, I've got yours up, but let me get the sizing a little bit set up. And I can tell you what we're looking at so that you know. We've got the first one. I put them in the order that you sent me, but the first one is a foggy mountaintop sort of scene looking down with a lot of grassy area there. And what's going on with that?
We're talking about a horizontal photo, I believe, with trees sticking up in the middle of the fog, and to the left you see a tiny building, and it's actually a helicopter aerial shoot over a winery.
Oh, cool.
So you're looking at the vineyard.
Yep.
And typically you do have a lot of other scenes in the valley that would show up. But one of my favorite types of photography is doing a lot of bird's eye view. I'm doing a lot with the drone more recently, but in order to make the emotion of that landscape and scene, I think, really come alive, you want to be able to find the ideal weather and light. So a lot of this photo is talking about the terroir of the Willamette Valley.
Right.
We do get quite a bit of fog. It cools off in the night. It's what keeps the bright acidity in the Pinot Noir. This was for a book Bob and I did together on Pinot Noir. So it was a while ago, but it's still one of my favorite photos, just because I love, first off, the helicopter pilot was amazing. We were in totally dense fog conditions. I was on the phone to the winery.
Wow.
We saw our holes in the weather and we just went for it. So it was amazing skill on his part, and then also knowing the type of concept that I wanted, waiting for the right conditions to be there. So we just kept circling around the property and getting at different elevations, and I played with different lens angles till we found the exact scene. This is probably one of hundreds of photos, but it's where the fog only revealed the winery and hid everything else.
And I love seeing the barn there, you know, in the clear. That's pretty cool. So we're getting a whole variety of like pretty dense fog, lighter, and then none at all through this image. I'm going to ask both of you guys this, but do you look for weather for your, you know, are you trying to find the weather, or is this the weather you're dealt with and you got to go out and photograph, or a little bit of both?
Well, usually it's Andrea, you know, as Andrea explained, with this shoot, because the helicopter was involved,
Yeah.
it's carefully coordinated. But usually we just deal with
Whatever comes your way.
You know, particularly with travel, because travel is inherently, well, when travel used to be an option.
Right.
Which
I remember those days.
With travel, you still have a finite amount of time. So you have to deal with what you get when you're in a place.
Exactly.
If you're lucky, you can spend 2 or 3 days in a place. But the old school geographic assignments used to be able to spend 3 or 4 months in a place and keep shooting. Those days are well over.
They really are,
You know,
aren't
the most recent magazine shoots I've done, which hasn't been for some time, I've been lucky to get 2 weeks in a destination, and that means covering everything.
Yeah.
So it doesn't stuck in one place for 2 weeks. You're in several different locations, so you deal with whatever you've got. Now, I always tell people there's no such thing as bad light. There's just inappropriate light.
Yeah.
So if light's not working for one thing, you shoot something else. And some of the photographs we'll be looking at will be showing that, I hope.
Good. Let's go to the next one. This is the vineyard with sun rays coming through. It's a portrait in a house, or perhaps that looks like a house with vineyards in front of it.
Right, it's actually a house
very warm.
and a TV room, same Willamette Valley scene, and a helicopter shoot again. And this was pretty cool because it wasn't necessarily planned. It was at the end of a photo shoot, and we were flying back towards where the helicopter headquarters were. And I just decided to swing by this winery, and I noticed these God rays coming through the clouds.
God rays.
And I really wanted to be able to kind of capture the feeling of that property, just the vibrancy and coming alive. And verticals can be difficult to get of a particular scene like that. You don't want to shoot straight down, it flattens it out. And I wanted to be able to show the layers in the background. And it was towards the late summer, which gave it a bit of a softer light condition. So back to your same question with Bob, I mean, these are a combination of commercial shoots and editorial shoots, but at least I'm always planning the right time of day. So I've got an app on my phone. It's a thing, Sunseeker. So you can actually go to a location, point it live at the sun, and track exactly where it's going to rise and set.
Oh, cool.
And then you can select a certain day of the year. So obviously, if you're going to go to the time and focus to do an aerial shoot, even if it's a drone, you want to make sure that you're there at dawn or dusk, and that the property is going to have the potential to light up. And then, you know, try to plan the weather. And again, this property, I saw that was happening, and just spur of the moment decided to capture an additional shot. And we just kept on circling around and around and around until all the light was shining directly on the subject that I wanted it to. And it's still one of my
I love that. Good. Okay, and now it looks like the same area. It's now a landscape.
Hold on, Mark. Sorry to interrupt. No, I'm not really sorry to interrupt at all.
You're not sorry. But that's very polite of you.
I just thought I could pretend to be polite for the audience.
I know.
You know the truth.
I do.
One thing I just thought of is that you know, in the pre-Instagram days, you really had to find other ways of knowing when to be in a place to shoot.
Yeah.
Now, all you need to do is go onto Instagram, plug in the destination you're going to, and you say exactly what people have shot. You see the GPS coordinates. You can work out when to be in a place at what time to see where the sun's going to be coming from, and it is so much easier. You know, and I started in this business a long, long time ago. We didn't have the beauty of being able to do that, and I have very mixed feelings about it. It's destroyed a lot of places because everybody knows where they want to go to get the best shots. You no longer have to search for them. But today you can do that. So it makes it much easier to find out when it's the best time to be in a certain location, almost wherever it is.
Yeah.
You know, I've been photographing very big, expensive houses in California for the last few weeks. And you just go onto Google Maps, and you say exactly where the house is, an actual photograph of it, an aerial photograph, and it's amazing.
I know.
You know,
well, they're good tools, but again, it's still going to be the photographer, no matter what. You could be standing in the same location as somebody else, you're going to come away with a better image. That's just the way it is, because you're Bob Holmes.
Well, of course.
I mean, there's just, it's still the how you capture it, even though you might have this more or less the same lighting conditions and even be in the same spot. So
ultimately, and that's the intangible.
Yeah, that's the intangible.
I personally don't really understand it. You can certainly improve your vision, and seeing is the most important thing about photography. Learn to look. I repeat this endlessly. You have to learn to look and see, and hopefully it will come together for you at the same time. And not just look at the scene. Look at paintings, sculpture, anything.
That's right.
I looked at a lot of books. I've always loved books, not just books with pictures, but books, any kind of book. I like reading. And you can get so much from that using your imagination. Then it helps your vision. But when it comes down to actually pressing the shutter, that's an intangible.
That's the intangible thing. Exactly.
I can't really explain why I do it.
Well, we can follow you along and we can see what you're doing, but at the end of the day, each photographer is going to make a different image. You're making that photograph, so that's why it's an art.
There's better or worse. In fact, some of my favorite photographs no one likes at all. It's very subjective.
Yeah, so true.
It's very subjective. So there are bad photographs. Obviously, they're technically bad photographs.
Yeah.
But it's very much a matter of individual vision. And I guess the more people you can please with the photograph, the better people think you are as a photographer.
True.
But really, if you're pleased, that's really all that matters. Unless you're working professionally, of course.
Yeah. So back to this image, Andrea. So this is the one with the pond in the center. I love it because it's like this sort of radiating out from the center where the pond is. And the Blind Husky team noted that you have very long shadows from the trees. I assume it's late in the afternoon.
Exactly. This was a fortunate non-dawn morning.
Okay.
When a property is best at sun. But a lot of people may think you want to be able to have the sun to your back for the most dramatic landscapes. And actually, I prefer backlighting for the majority of it. Yeah. So a little bit of sun flare above the pond, which doesn't bother me much. I'm getting to the exact right altitude to be able to get that warm, sunbathed feeling. I wanted to capture the romance of the property. It's Alexandra Winery in the Willamette Valley. It's a really beautiful, multiple layered vineyard that the trees and the surrounding hillsides and the way the building fits into that. I just love the feeling. And there's this iconic tree with the lake in the middle. So I've been trying to actually shoot this for a couple of different years. And there was always construction or things with the lighting or the planting or the weather that didn't come together. And it goes to show that the more you know a property or a place, when you actually go back for that landscape, you know the exact right conditions that you want to be able to capture.
Yeah.
So most of my favorite landscape shots, they aren't just the first time I happen to be at a place. even when we're traveling, we try to at least go back at a dawn or a dusk or a different day, like you'll see in Argentina here shortly. The more time you have, the better chance you have for the weather and conditions and lighting to align. But I do tend to work towards these large aerial landscapes as some of my favorite conditions, because you can always, if it is early in the day or late, even if it's just standard sunlight like this shot, you can still make the lighting have more of an emotional impact.
Yes, it definitely does. Okay, let's look at the next one. We have some folks drinking wine on a deck with a big sunburst.
It's the same place.
Okay.
So you're looking at the scene that I shot from the aerial. And again, it's afternoon light. And I had actually been having dinner at this Alexandra winery maybe a week or two before. And we'd had this consistent cloud pattern that came in the afternoon that was really beautiful.
Yeah.
And I noticed looking out the windows. So when we needed to capture a lifestyle scene just outside, and I saw the weather like this, I grabbed a group of people together. Those are actually my parents and part of it, and it's the hospitality manager coming out with a bottle of wine.
Yep.
So that's really what happens at that particular location. I just waited for the light to come through, and then just kept on working the conditions. And that sun flare is from shooting at f/22. So you want to make sure you've got a good quality lens, that it's clean, you don't have a filter with dust over it, and that you're just working it as quickly as possible, because that sun might only pop through that little break. You might have 30 seconds, you might have 10, you might have a bit of a lead in to that, or the clouds might be blowing quite a bit. So you've got to pre-visualize what you want, and then when it all comes together, just move very quickly.
I love the reflection is awesome. That adds a whole different element to it. And Bob made a point when we were talking, when we were actually in your course, we were out shooting sun flares, and you made that same point about stopping down to f/22, so you don't get a sort of a super pixelated version of it.
And Andrea made a very good point about having a really clean lens.
Yeah.
I've been shooting at a number, as I just mentioned, I've been shooting these big mansions and getting backlighting coming in with mixed lighting inside the house. And I was noticing I was getting all sorts of bad lens flare, which I then had to Photoshop out, which is an absolute pain in the ass.
Yeah.
I spent hours photoshopping flare out that was caused by almost imperceivable dust on the filter. If you take the filter off when you're shooting like that, take off the filter, make sure your lens is absolutely clean, use a blower brush.
Yeah.
It solves that problem.
So important.
So now I take the filter off if I'm shooting backlit scenes.
Yep.
And I'm thinking, if I get flare, it's very clean flare and very acceptable.
Good.
It's very important to be careful about that.
Good point. Should we switch up and go over to some of yours, Bob? You want to, Andrea, did you have another one that you?
Argentina.
We've got Argentina. That's amazing.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll come back to my Argentina.
Do you want to do this one, or should we go to Bob's? I just have to switch over here real quickly to get Bob's up. You know, the point about cleaning your lens is so important. And remember, an iPhone also has a lens. A dirty iPhone isn't going to look any better than any other, dirty lens, right?
Yeah. Except I think some of the algorithms in iPhones get rid of a lot of the crap that could be captured with a normal camera.
Yeah, that's probably true.
It's remarkable technology.
Okay, I'm going to open up yours, Bob, here. I've got, looks like a big 4th of July at the Golden Gate Bridge, or I'm assuming that's 4th of July. Let me get this set up a little better, but go ahead and we can talk about that one.
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't have the same order of photographs that you have.
Do you want me to? I can go to any order you want.
Technical problems. You
Is it the Golden Gate Bridge?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. I couldn't. You couldn't download them.
You want to?
Yeah, this was actually a very timely. Oh, not the 4th of July. Although when I put this in, I thought it looked appropriate. This was the 50th anniversary of the Golden Gate Bridge.
Oh wow! Oh, that makes sense.
And I went out on a friend's. I hate sailing. I dislike water
Really?
with a passion. Yeah, because I get violently seasick. I love mountains. I've always been a climber,
Yeah.
and I like solid land under my feet. Being on water makes me very uneasy. I didn't grow up in England swimming. You know, you don't have swimming lessons. Well, in my era, in the 1800s,
Yeah, back then
no,
they didn't have swimming pools either, so I guess it would make sense.
there were no swimming pools. So we didn't learn to swim, and I've always had this fear of water. So I'm a very uneasy sailor, apart from the motion. I get very seasick. But I reluctantly went out on this boat, and it's one of the best decisions I ever made. We sailed to a place almost under the Golden Gate Bridge, and all these fireworks going off. And this shot I took, I couldn't have taken this on film. It would have been impossible.
Yeah.
Because I shot it at 3200 ISO at, what is it, the 40th, I can't read it.
No, I think it's a 50th at
50th
f4.5.
of a second at 4.5, and it's absolutely sharp, and it captured everything perfectly without really any manipulation.
You're right off Baker Beach. I've
we
photographed
saw
from that exact spot.
A boat moored in Sausalito, so it was a fairly short sail out.
Yeah.
Mercifully. But of course, the bay was crowded with boats. Everybody that had a boat was out looking at fireworks going off on the bridge. But anyway, that was just a timely shot. But I think my point about these photographs is that 2 points. One is that as a travel photographer, you think you have to travel, but you don't. You know,
Right.
I had an office in Sausalito for about 15 years, and it was a short drive to Golden Gate Bridge viewpoints. And Golden Gate Bridge is one of the great travel icons of the world.
It is.
People from all over the world have photographed the Golden Gate Bridge. Here I was working 10 minutes away from it. So, you know, I photographed it through all different kinds of weather patterns, as I think we'll see if we go through these, Mark.
Yeah, let's go to the next one. Let me go back. Yeah, I'm just going to flick through. Here's one from the Marin Headlands with the bridge just poking out.
Just pop. Yeah. You know, and I tried to shoot it in every condition possible. And you don't always have to shoot the whole of the thing to get the impression across. I personally like this shot of just the bridge peeping over the ridge.
Yeah.
Walking the bridge in the headlands as a shot of the whole bridge. So I try to shoot around things. And if you're a casual visitor, you wouldn't even know about this place. You wouldn't even go up there because it's a little bit out of the way. And I shot this for the Golden Gate National Recreation Area for a book they were doing. And I had to spend some time researching the place. If we can go through these fairly quickly,
Sure.
Mark.
We've got another one with the peeking out through the clouds. I love that.
Yeah. This again is just a hint of the bridge, but it's a classic view. And you would never know this was going to happen because it's just socked in.
Right.
You know, it was in Sausalito in the city. As you can see, the whole of the bay was totally socked in with cloud. But if you went up this road from the bottom of the Golden Gate Bridge, eventually you get above the cloud and you see the bridge popping out. So you have to take chances. It may not have worked. You know, I could have gone up there and there'd been nothing. It had just been solid cloud all the way up.
Yeah.
But this particular day, I lucked out. And it's always worth just trying in case it happens to come together. You just never know. It's always worth taking a chance. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But if it does, you get a shot that you really like.
And the next one we have is the Transamerica building kind of through in the, in the
This is
background.
a classic headlines.
Yeah.
Headlines.
Headlands.
From the headland.
Yeah.
At sunset, when it accentuates the
The orange.
the orange of the bridge. I forget what they call it. This one's special orange.
Yeah.
But sunset accentuates that. And of course, the fog rolled in. This was taken in the summer, so the fog was rolling in and the bridge peering out of the fog. Unfortunately, the city was clear. And this was one of these days when I thought, well, is it worth going up there? It was on an assignment for a magazine called Travel Holiday, which was one of the great travel magazines in its day, that sadly, like a lot of magazines, has folded. And I was given this assignment to shoot San Francisco as though I was seeing it through fresh eyes.
Yeah.
Through the story, left San Francisco 30 years previously and had come back to live there. And he was writing it from that perspective. And I was asked to photograph it the same way. And it was, I finished up shooting it on a 4x5 because I thought it would slow me down and give me a better perspective of the city. And it was nerve-wracking because it was a major story and it was going to be the cover story of the magazine. And I thought this is unbelievably difficult because I know the city so well. I'd already been living in the San Francisco area for about 25 years, 25, 30 years. And I thought this is going to be impossible because how can he see a place with fresh eyes when he's still living there? Yeah. It's not as though I'd gone back to live there. I'd continued living there. And I didn't hear anything from the magazine, from the picture editor, after I'd sent the shoot in for days and days. And I was getting really anxious. And after a couple of weeks, my office manager said, why don't you just call him and see if he even got the photographs? And I very reluctantly called him. And he said, oh, hi, Bob, I'm really sorry I didn't get back to you. I've been swamped trying to get an issue out. We said, great shoot. We loved what you did. And we've got the perfect cover shot. And this was San Francisco from a fresh perspective. The cover shot was this, a vertical of just the bridge with a Transamerica pyramid behind it.
Yes.
It's a standard cliche shot. If you go on Google Images, you'll see probably hundreds of variations of this. And they use this as the cover for a story on San Francisco from a fresh look. So you never know. I always tell aspiring travel photographers, always take the cliches. However much you think people want something different, they'll always want the standard cliche shots.
Well, you have the Transamerica building as a punctuation point, don't you, in this image?
Yeah.
That really is.
So the organization of the elements is important. Yeah. The thing that really makes it is the fog. Yeah. It shows how the bay is in the summer. It's cold and foggy very often. So anyway, that's the story. That take chances, go for something if you think it could work, and don't avoid taking cliches.
There you go. We'll do one more.
I have a quick question before you move on. Our friend, the Blind Husky team, he was wondering if you knew if it was like a 200 or 300 millimeter lens that you used to capture this, or if you remember at all what kind of lens you had.
I suspect it was. I don't think we have it in the metadata.
It was a scan.
Because I shot this on film.
Okay.
I suspect it was at least a 200. It may have been a 300. It certainly wasn't longer than that because that is the longest lens I normally use, and I don't use that very often. It was more likely a 200 on a 80 to 200 zoom, I suspect. I've always used Nikons. I've used Nikons since the old Nikon F and Nikomat. And it's my standard long lens was an 80 to 200. So I suspect it's the 200. And I think there's one more shot, Marc, isn't there? He's abandoned ship. He couldn't take anymore. Oh, here it is, Mac.
There we go.
Abandoned ship, Marc. I thought you'd had enough.
We got one more here, vertical of the bridge.
I think it's sunset.
What's that?
Gold sunset.
Is it a vertical?
It's a vertical with the ferry in the foreground and the bridge in the
Yeah.
background.
This is one of those shots that's pure serendipity.
Yeah.
My landlord was a very high-end developer. My landlord in Sausalito was a very high-end developer, and he'd got this spectacular house in Tiburon, which is one of the very exclusive Bay Area areas. And I was with him in his house. We were having a drink, and looked out of the window, and this phenomenal sunset. And then I saw the ferry coming, the San Francisco Sausalito ferry, and I just waited until the ferry went past this gap in the foreground, with the bridge in the background and these incredible clouds above, and it all came together in this vertical shot.
That was a wonderful shot.
It was entirely dependent upon the weather and the light, and more than anything, serendipity. The chances of all those elements coming together was, very remote, but they did, and I took advantage of it. So always be looking around. And I was very reluctant to leave the cocktail in my hand, but it was worth it.
Yes, I love the way you have the ferry just in that little notch, just perfect.
And there was light at the ferry, so it just all worked.
Yeah.
But it was luck, But you have to take advantage of that luck, and you
had your camera with you.
You have to know. Yeah, I had my camera with me, which I always recommend you always. And nowadays, everybody has a camera with them, almost 100% of the time, because they've all got
their iPhones.
Yeah, and although these have limitations, they can take damn good photographs if it's all you have. So I had a camera with me, but I was looking around. I was seeing. That was the main thing.
It is. And remember what our friend Ansel Adams said, luck favors the prepared photographer. So you can be as lucky as you want, but if you are not prepared, like you had to press the shutter right then, or that ferry boat would have bumped into the tree, and it would have made a completely different image.
Yeah, everything in the photographs you take is a considered decision. I can't say it's necessarily, I guess a considered decision. You don't necessarily think of it at the time, but you're always subconsciously aware of all those elements.
Yeah.
It becomes intuitive. I'm sure in that case, I thought about the ferry boat coming across and released the shutter at exactly the right time. But it's something that becomes second nature.
Yes.
You just automatically, and you have to get yourself to that position where you're taking so many photographs that you know intuitively when all the elements are in exactly the right place.
It's like sports, right? If you're playing tennis and you practice, you know where to be to get that shot. You're not at the wrong end of the court. And there's
you've seen tennis? I didn't realize.
Yes.
Yeah, Roger and I used to play regularly together.
Well, it's a good sport to kind of look at, at the timing and position and that sort of thing. All plays its part. I must have missed that British humor there. I'm sorry. It flew right by me. Well, on that note, why don't we switch back to Andrea here? So we have Argentina. Did you want to talk about that one next, or I can go to anyone you want?
No, that's perfect.
Okay.
So I think you have kind of the purplish sunrise photo off the Instagram and Facebook. And we shared a lot of this a couple, I think it goes back in May.
Yeah, we
fresh,
remember that, right? Yeah.
That's where we were when the pandemic broke out, pretty removed from internet or many other worldwide events that were happening. But it's kind of ironic looking at the tranquility of the scene. We only had 4 days at that location, and the weather actually was pretty sketchy, many of them. This was the second morning that we had gone out to this location, and there was a series the third morning from a previous share where we didn't get that beautiful reflection. So I think what I liked about this particular scene is the color contrast between the purple and the red, and a bit of fog rolling through, and just the feeling within that lake. The weather changes incredibly quickly in Patagonia. This is Torres del Paine, and it just means scouting out the location. So it was Bob, myself, and Malcolm, a photographer we travel with regularly, and we had found this particular spot, a little hike into the lake during the middle of the day. So we didn't just arrive at dawn hoping that this was all going to line up. We had dialed it in and just kept waking up before dawn, driving, getting to the location, walking out, and every single day the mood was very different. And there's few places in the world like a Patagonia or a Scotland or maybe Oregon during the fall, or every place has its most dramatic period, and we wanted to be there for some weather, and we were lucky to get it.
You did.
Okay. I think it's important that, for landscape photography, weather is almost essential.
Yeah.
What so-called nice weather, sunny skies, sunny weather, blue skies sucks. It's so boring, flat, and uninteresting.
Well, then you're kind of stuck doing an aerial shot, which you have a little window of time for that backlighting to really work, or front lighting if it is interesting enough. So I think, there's a series, and we can kind of go through these a little bit more quickly, because we talked about them last time with the glacier.
Yeah.
Or a couple additional shots. So this was unusual because I was with a group. You can't hike that glacier without a guide, and luckily the guide was a photographer himself. So we spoke a bit beforehand. I said I was really wanting to be able to time the images correctly, and every time, the sun would break through for maybe 15 seconds and then go behind heavy clouds again. So I kind of lagged behind. I think it might have been like 20 of us, which is fairly large. We had ice crampons on, and we were having to move quickly through the scenes. So you just got to be ready to know, all right, this is going to be a wide angle, this is going to be a long lens. You've got to have it in some type of pack that you can move quickly with. And one of the shots that Bob meant to show, I've got this Mind Shift pack from Think Tank, where I store the gear in it, and then I can just swing around the pouch and immediately pull the gear out to be able to shoot. And I shot some with my iPhone as well during that, just because I had it in my hand. And sometimes the light is that fleeting that you really only do have a few of those seconds. And the way that the dramatic clouds accentuated the natural blue of the glacier just gave it a texture and mood as well.
Definitely.
So I think that's the second shot.
And now we have the goats in, I'm going to guess, Spain, Portugal. Where are we here? The goat handler?
What in Portugal, because I did a whole series from the Douro last time. But this is New Zealand.
Oh, wow.
So we really wanted to be able to show some of the cool climate. A lot of the work I do with agriculture is biodynamic or organic properties. So it's talking about the whole ecosystem of the farm and the importance of animals and the importance of being in balance with nature. So this was something that was shot for a New Zealand sustainable campaign. And we wanted to be able to capture the interaction of the vineyard manager and the animals. So he actually does feed them in the morning.
He had a very close relationship with this particular goat, and he used to dance every morning.
I can see that. He's dancing with the goats.
They do that. They jump up.
Instead of dancing with wolves, it's dancing with goats.
And it was frosty. It was very cold. And so you're on the edge of viticulture. This is central Otago, of where it's possible to grow grapes. So we really wanted to tell part of that story as well. So if you're not up there at dawn, right when the light first hits, that fog's going to go away, the snow's going to melt, and the whole scene is going to lose that special,
just goes
emotional.
Away. Well, listen, why don't we throw things open here for some questions? You guys, this is your opportunity. Ask either one of them anything you want to know. Bob is never embarrassed to answer any questions. So no matter how personal it is, go for it. I ask him all sorts of things. And sometimes
I'll kick off with one while the audience is catching up, since we're on a delay. Just so that you could kind of emphasize a point, since we're talking about weather and lighting related to weather. we were having a quick conversation in the chat about the timing of that photo with in the mountains in Argentina, and how you guys took that at dawn, not sunset. So there is a difference between that lighting, right? With, you know, in some cases you want to do dawn, and sunset wouldn't be as appropriate, even though we always think of sunset as like the golden hour.
Well, in that particular case, Jared, sunset, the mountains would have been in silhouette. So, you know, it wouldn't have worked. But in general, the unfortunate thing for me is that dawn light is often the nicest, and I hate getting up early. It's a curse, a photographer's curse.
It is, isn't it?
This time of the year, we're in Walla Walla a couple of days ago shooting at a winery, and you have to be out at 5 in the morning, not up at 5, out at 5, because sunrise is about 5:15.
No, 5:07.
5:07 sunrise.
That's brutal.
Yeah. Oh, it's torture. But it's beautiful light at sunrise. If there's any water, the water is usually flat before the sun comes up.
You get mist more.
You don't get any ripples on it because there are no convection currents created by heat from the sun. So the water's absolutely calm. As soon as the sun is up, you get ripples on the water. As Andrea just said, you get mist. And it's just cleaner light because there's no pollution early in the morning.
Yeah.
It's a very different quality of light. It's not to say sunset isn't the shot of the Golden Gate Bridge with the ferry boat was sunset, and that was magnificent light. So it's different. But I must have, on average, on balance, I tend to prefer dawn. And more than anything, Jared, it depends upon your subject and the direction it faces. Torres del Paine faces almost southeast, I guess. So the early morning sun hits the mountains. The late afternoon sun doesn't. It's behind them.
But the difficulty when you're working with sunset, you can work into it. You can see what the light is going to become and then wait until it gets to that perfect moment. At sunrise, it's backwards, obviously. So the very first moments, you've got to be ready.
Yeah.
And then it continues to get worse. So if you haven't dialed in your correct location or lens or concept, you don't have much time to...
And for some reason, I don't know why, because it makes no sense logically, sunrise seems to be much more fleeting than sunset.
You're not awake.
Sunrise seems
I know.
over in a flash, whereas sunset can drag on. It's really bizarre.
It's interesting.
And it's obviously psychological more than reality because they both take the same amount of time. But, you know, it's odd. But sunrise, you seem to have probably a maximum of half an hour to shoot when it's the best possible light.
Yeah.
Whereas sunset, you shoot over an hour or so.
Well, you know, Bob, as climbers, we would often be waking up at ungodly hours. You know, so at 3 a.m. you're putting your pack on,
Yeah.
so that by the time you get to the summit, you still have time to get back. So there's always that, you know, that trade-off of destroying your sleep in order to find something beautiful, or in this case, like being able to make a climb and come back on the same day.
Yeah, on big mountains, always up at 2 or 3 in the morning.
You're just up, it's ridiculous, you know.
I was a lot younger when I did that.
Yeah. So, okay, good. Any other questions out there, you guys? Now is your chance. We've got a number of people chiming in saying that the 5 a.m. definitely sucks, and some people saying why. And, you know, hey, look, I think once you're up, it's incredible. Because it is quiet, as you said, Bob, you know, and there's something magical about starting your day off with this incredible light. It's just that getting out of bed, that initial jolt, right?
The initial jolt.
Yeah, especially if you've been out the night before enjoying the Argentine wine or whatever. Not that you guys did that, I'm sure, but...
No, never drink now.
No, I didn't
That's
think
the hard around for solstices. We're often shooting, finishing at 10 at night, and then up at 4 in the morning.
I know,
so it's naps during
But
the
we all
day.
have different internal clocks. I know people that revel in getting up at 5 every morning, whether they need to or not.
Whether you
I
need
don't.
to. Yeah.
I work, I can work until midnight writing or whatever, and I don't feel so good in the morning. In the morning, I just like to sit with a cup of coffee and slowly wake up. And you can't do that when you're taking landscape photographs.
Certainly not. Well, listen, you guys.
We've got a quick question
Yeah.
here from one of our viewers. So for drone flying, how do you feel about the increasing restrictions, laws, negative public sentiment towards drones? Like, what are your feelings on those? Because there are a lot more restrictions that are coming with drone flying. I believe both of you do that, so I'd be curious to hear how you both feel about that.
I honestly welcome some of them because safety issues. I would often fly in a helicopter 400 feet or lower. So with every person pretty much getting a drone, just to see how high and fast and fun that they can fly around, it is a huge safety issue. So the majority of my work is at private commercial locations. I really did want to fly over the city in Portland. There were some amazing shots that were the cover of New York Times with the protests. But you need to have special permits for that. When you do get into areas, I was doing a piece for Travel Portland last year, and I had to fly right under a Class D airport. I needed a shot of Mount Hood clear over an Olympic-sized swimming pool. So there's an app. I should remember what this is quickly. But you can, through that app, I think it's, do you remember what it's called?
Yeah.
We'll put it in the notes afterwards. It's
Oops, we're losing your audio there.
permission.
There we go.
App will show if you can get permission at that particular location. So I was able to get permission to fly 200 feet. Are you able to hear me?
Yep, we got you back again.
Okay, so with that app, you can online live say I want to fly to 200 feet, show the exact range that you're going to fly into, and then it goes to the towers. So it was a bit nerve-wracking because right as I was landing, a plane went exactly on the same flight path that I was, and it must not be more than 400 feet above me. So yeah, you don't want a bunch of other people out there just flying willy-nilly. They're programmed to only be 400 feet, and it forces you not to be able to get into certain airspace conditions. But there's apps and opportunities to register. It takes more time, but at least it's live now.
Yeah.
So.
And speaking of apps, when we're talking about weather, it's a good idea to use your weather apps because there's a number of them out there that can help you find good weather, or not good weather, but the kind of weather we want to photograph. And also, as you mentioned, the one that will tell you the sunrise and sunset. What have you got there, Bob? Let's see.
I've got a bunch of weather apps that I...
Yeah, let's see. Hold that up. Move a little closer to Andrea there so we can see it. There we go. Yeah.
And this is the
so you have a whole bunch of them. Hold that up a little bit again.
Is the one that you can, you could actually go to a 3D view and it would show you can point it at the sun.
Oh, yeah.
And see exactly where it's going to rise and set.
Which one is that?
And then
what's the name of that?
Sunseeker.
Sunseeker, yeah. I definitely recommend these apps because it will help you find the kind of weather you're looking for, so it isn't just accidental. They're great tools to have for sure. Well, listen, you guys, I want to thank you for joining us once again. It's been awesome, and sharing your insight, your knowledge. We love having you guys on the show. Is there anything you want to sign off with, either one of you, before we say goodbye? All right, on that note.
No, actually I do. I think that our state of mind, I find myself, I've typically loved bright sunny conditions during all the trauma and drama that we've had in the last. I found myself attracted to more of these transitional shots. So whatever it is that you're feeling or thinking or wanting to capture, I think you gravitate towards that type of weather, and you can use that to really help tell the story.
Good point.
So
yeah,
it's not a bad weather type of scene. It will help communicate that type of feeling that we're all in, and hopefully we are able to wait around for those conditions to break through.
Awesome. Okay, guys, once again, thanks for joining us. We'll see you again really soon, I know. And have a happy 4th of July, especially Bob. I'm sorry for your loss. Losing a big chunk of real estate. Can you imagine what you could have cashed in on there? The Brits?
Things are at the moment, I think we're well rid of you.
You probably are. You found us revolting anyway back then.
Yes.
So, okay, guys, we'll talk real soon. Happy 4th.
Thanks, Marc.
Thanks.
That was fun, as always. And, hey, thanks for joining us wherever you guys are in the world. It's always great to see you. And, I love these chats. A couple of points. Make sure you take our survey. Now, we're using SurveyMonkey, and they chose today to put everything on maintenance. So don't go there right now because you'll just get a dead link. It won't be dead, but you won't be able to take the survey. But, Jared, go ahead and put the link up there anyway. They say they're doing maintenance until 12 o'clock or 8 o'clock tonight. So take it tomorrow if you haven't already. It's an important survey that will help us guide our what we're doing. Not only the courses, not only books we're going to write, but all sorts of things. So I want to know from you guys what you really want and what's happening. So that survey will really help. Jan and I are going to take a couple of days off. We're going to take a mini vacation down the coast. We live, a few minutes from Big Sur, but we're going to keep going south from there. There's a big castle called the Hearst Castle. We're not going there because it's a kind of a tourist spot, but there's a number of really interesting places. We're going to end up on Santa Cruz Island off the coast of Santa Barbara. There's what's known as the Channel Islands. We're going to take a boat out there. I'm going to try to photograph and actually shoot some videos, so that'll be fun. So you're not going to see me live till probably next Friday. I don't actually have it totally nailed down, but we're hoping to have our friend Dan Milner with us next Friday. And the following week, we've got a couple of great, really awesome episodes coming up. So listen, you guys have a fantastic weekend. Make sure you are using this time to get out and shoot. Even if you got to wear masks or whatever, go outside and do something, because that's super important. We talked about that at the beginning of our whole pandemic episode, how important it is to get out and walk every day. I don't miss a day where I don't get out and walk. It's super important to get your head clear. Okay, well, listen, subscribe, tell your friends, spread the word about AYP. Make sure you join the AYP club if you're not already in there. And remember, the survey will be coming up. Oh, we have a link. We had Denise on yesterday. She has got a beauty care line. We have a 15% off discount from her. And I'm not sure if you have it, Jared. She sent it to me, but we'll put it in. Make sure we put it in her.
Yeah, I don't have it myself, but it will be in the description of her video, which will be going live here in just a little bit.
Okay, we'll make sure it's in there.
So keep your eye out for that.
Okay, you guys, stay safe, get out, and remember to capture your own images of life. Love you guys. See you soon.